A very, very buenos dias to you all, muchachos, and welcome to the Mr. Sitter podcast, episode 25 of this little ditty that I've been singing for a few weeks now. We are just off the back of Argentina's fairly comfortable in the end 3-0 victory in the semi-finals of the World Cup over Croatia. We're just mere moments after Craig Foster does his little thing on the little board telling us all the things that we need to know desperately about all the tactics. And I only watched a little bit and kind of listened to the rest of it because I didn't need Craig Foster and his fucking ankles telling me what's what, because I watched the match and I'm about to tell you what happened. I think I predicted 2-0 yesterday, so yeah, your boy's back. Although probably the easy prediction to make that Argentina would do it over Croatia, even though my dad did call me last night to gloat about his prediction before the tournament that Croatia were going to make it all the way to the final, and then to double down on it and say that he thought Croatia were going to win the entire World Cup. That's what he did last night. My dad, he called me and said that. So I'm happy that Croatia lost here, so that dude doesn't get to be smug when I speak to him later on. Hi, also, I know you're listening. Anyway, until the penalty, which was the go-ahead for Argentina, this match effectively went exactly how you thought it would go. It was a almost carbon copy of the previous two Croatia games, wherein they extremely effectively took the sting out of the momentum of the game by having those midfielders do as they do. And there were brief moments in the first 15 or 20 minutes where I thought, this is going to go to fucking penalties. This is going to be another long morning for us. Thankfully, it was not to be. But there was a moment where I thought, Croatia still have that sting in them. They still have that ability to trouble any opposition, purely because there was a moment where there was an interplay between the Argentina defenders and they managed to find the ball to Messi in space, and immediately three Croatian players swarmed Messi, because that's what you would do. Kovacic ended up walking away with the ball, and then he made this amazing kind of Kovacic typical run, if you watch the Premier League, where he took on three players with just not skill, just a fucking horsepower run. And you thought, man, they've got the thrust in them. They've got it. Still, Croatia not tired just yet. And they weren't. It wasn't being old or tired that undid Croatia today. It was a little bit of bad luck and just efficiency from Argentina. Alvarez wins the penalty. Alvarez was, for me, man of the match today. A lot of people might say Lionel Messi, and that's totally fair enough. But the thrust, the pace, the power, and the industry, and indeed inventiveness that this guy has, were terrific, and he walked away with a penalty, 1 and 2 goals. Julian Alvarez of Manchester City, and somebody's got to get the boy some Clearasil, but he is a great player. Wins the penalty. Messi took possibly the best penalty I've ever seen Lionel Messi take. It was lashed. It was fucking levered into the top right-hand corner with fury. This is you know who's the chef for that little meal that Messi's penalty was? It's the Dutch, because they fucking pissed him off, and that was a pissed off penalty from Lionel Messi. And Messi played kind of ruthlessly angry the entire game. And like I told you guys, this is danger Messi. Angry Messi is danger Messi. If this bloke, I made this prediction before the World Cup, but I understand a lot of you probably new listeners, maybe you didn't see it. So let me tell you this: if this bloke turns up to the final without a beard, if he shaves for the final, give it to him. Don't even blow the whistle for kickoff. Give it to him. This assassin, he looks so scary with no beard. He looks cool with a beard. It's the opposite of me. I look like I look like Julian Alvarez with no beard. I need to have a beard. Messi with no beard. Messi with a beard looks like your uncle. He's like, hey, how's it going? Missed you. How's work going? Good to see you at Christmas. Here's the bundt cake that I made. Messi with no beard looks like he should be in Arkham Asylum. He's a psychopath, and he is gonna kill France or Morocco, dependent on his facial hair configuration. The second goal was you felt for Croatia because it's a very kind of unlucky goal to concede, created purely by the graft of Julian Alvarez, who very deservedly scored it, but he basically got 3 lucky bounces on his amazing run, one off Juranovic, then one off Sosa, and then the ball kind of fell for him in front of Livakovic. Bam, hits it on the volley in. Argentina 2-0 up going into halftime, and the second that goal went in, Croatia's shape sort of just fell apart because when you need to score one goal, you can still operate in bursts. That's what Croatia have done for the entire tournament. They've operated in bursts. They've waited for the right moment to pick their teams off, to slow down the pace of the game, to speed up the pace of the game, to just control the tempo. And when they were 1-0 down against Brazil, they had that burst to equalize. When you're 2-0 down, you know it's not going to be just one burst. And so your entire game plan changes, your entire ethos changes, and their shape was lost. And unfortunately, this Croatia team are nothing without their shape, without their discipline. They went into halftime 2-0 down. It was very funny listening to he doesn't try and hide his nationalistic bias, but the Croatian origin Mark Bosnich doesn't like to hide how he feels about Croatia, and it was very funny that he was the only person, possibly definitely in the studio there with SBS and possibly watching, that was like, somebody tell me about this penalty. I'm not sure about the penalty. Maybe somebody can tell me what blah 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 blah. What was Livakovic supposed to do in that situation? I don't know, bro. Maybe just not foul the fuck out of Alvarez. That's just my guess. I'm not the goalkeeper that played for Chelsea, Aston Villa, and Manchester United. So you tell me. But I love Bozza, and crucially, I don't have to look at his fucking ankles every day, so he's my guy. Nonetheless, the half starts, and I don't want to say an uncharacteristic tactical error from Zlatko Dalic. You had to do it, but on 49 minutes, he puts on Petkovic, who scored the all-important equalizer against Brazil, the big boy. He's like the cheap knockoff Croatian Olivier Giroud. So he puts on Giroudovic, and he takes off Marcelo Brozovic. The triumvirate of Brozovic, Kovacic, and Modric broken up. And as soon as Brozovic went off, I said, it's over. Indeed, it was over. I understand that you're chasing the game, put on another striker, because at halftime they put on Vlasic and what do you call him? Pasalic came off. Vlasic went on. Another attacker went on. They put on 2 attackers and they took off Pasalic and they took off Sosa. So it was a left back and an attacker off for 2 attackers. Anyway, Kramaric. Kramaric went off. No, Kramaric came on. Doesn't matter. It was one of the attackers went on. Doesn't matter. He made that change, and then 4 minutes later he makes this other change. Clearly, they're chasing the game. They're going to throw a Hail Mary and do something they're uncomfortable with. But from there, it's over. That triumvirate is it's everything to Croatia. And once that was gone, and they had basically 4 attackers on, they became the team that I thought they were going to be for the entire tournament before the tournament, which is because Modric and Kovacic obviously had to drop much deeper when Brozovic went off. So when they're on the ball, they're safe. Behind them, they've got Gvardiol, tip-top, Lovren, old, and Juranovic, who was great against Brazil, but he's not a great player. And then basically a squadron of pretty ineffective at this level attackers. And they weren't going to do anything. They weren't going to do anything, and they lost their ability to take this thing out of the game, to control the game, which, yes, you got to take this risk when you're 2-0 down, but the risk didn't pay off. I thought very strangely that it was a quite respectable match, or respectful match, I should say, given that it is 2 races who are pretty hot-blooded, to say the absolute very least, and given that what we saw in the previous game against the Netherlands, you thought there might be a bit of biff here, but there wasn't. The teams were extraordinarily respectful of each other. There were a lot of hugs for Modric at the end, and you like to see that, because we don't want to line the pockets of Dana White, the fuckhead who said he thinks soccer is the least talented sport in the world. Clear mid-tournament publicity stunt from this guy. I don't want to even tacitly line the pockets of this guy by enjoying a football match that looks like a UFC match. So I don't want to watch fucking brawls, and I'm happy that this wasn't one. The third goal was Messi doing as Messi does. Messi messied it by himself on the right wing. Could have gone down a billion times. Decided not to. Just kept out-strengthening and out-pacing and out-fucking skilling the entire left side of the Croatian defense. And given that they had taken their normal left back off, Borna Sosa, you imagine, might have done a better job making sure Messi didn't even get the ball at that point, but he didn't. Big space was left open on that right, which is incidentally where basically all of Argentina's goals have come in this tournament, down that right-hand side. He twists, he turns, and he puts it on a silver platter for Julian Alvarez, the boy who lived. That's been... let's chat about Argentina for a second here before we finish off the match. That's been their credos. Since Scaloni took over, Bosnich told a pretty cool story at the end where he interviewed Emi Martinez, and Emi Martinez basically said when Scaloni came in, he said, guys, here's the deal. Lionel Messi is the best player in the world, possibly the best player that has ever existed on this planet. You are all here to serve him. That doesn't mean that the tactics are as simple as just give him the ball whenever we get the ball. They sacrifice for him. They do all of the dirty work for him to give him the time, the space to do what Messi does. And he's done it in this tournament. He's now a joint top scorer, I'm pretty sure, with Kylian Mbappe. Obviously has played one more game than Mbappe. And he's doing him. And no one deserves it more. And if you need any evidence to show why, like just how they do it, they played 4-4-2. And I did say yesterday that if they played that 3-5-2 was their best option going forward. I thought they were going to not play that because Di Maria was supposed to be back. Di Maria didn't feature today, thankfully. But they went 4-4-2, but it wasn't like the four in the middle, the midfielders. There was four central midfielders. You had Enzo, you had Rodrigo de Paul, Paredes, and Alexis McAllister. All of those guys are center midfielders. None of them are right or left-sided players. They all play in a cluster in the middle to basically disrupt anything that Croatia's midfield was going to do and leave the space for Alvarez to run into because Messi's being marked by three fucking guys. I think that works better than Lautaro because Lautaro, I think, is a more explosive, maybe not more explosive. He's a more powerful, more skillful player than Alvarez, but Alvarez is almost twice as fast as him. So he's the one to exploit the space left by the midfield destroying the opposition midfield and Messi being marked by the other three fucking players that are around. That's why they've been really, really effective. I don't know how it's going to go against probably France, but we'll chat about that when we need to chat about that. That's not what we're talking about today. After that third goal went in, Livakovic is like 27 or something, but he looks like the face of a. He looks like they've done a face swap with like a man and an 11-year-old boy because he's just got this little baby face. And when the third goal went in, he looked like he was about to cry, and I felt for him. Complete contrast to Argentina's goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, who just looks like he should be in Arkham Asylum, but for way more years than unbearded Messi. He is a fucking psychopath, and I love his crazy eyes. I love his histrionics. I love that he's got the Argentina flag just etched into the side of his hair, and I love the fact that Argentina generally, I mean, you've got Otamendi, who is over the hill, and even when he was on the hill, when he was playing for Man City, when he was in his heyday, he was still a total thug liability defender who does a job at like intimidating players. And Romero is basically his reincarnated self. They're not great defenders, they are good defenders. But knowing that behind them they have a guy as secure as Emi Martinez, every cross, every corner, he cleans it up, no problem. Croatia didn't really have any good shots, but any shot that they had, he gobbled it up. And knowing that they have the most competent goalkeeper I've ever seen in Argentina. Like, they used to have Romero, who the best he ever did was second choice at Manchester United. Abondanzieri, Willy Caballero. They've never had a good keeper in my lifetime. They do now. And just knowing that they have him behind them, fuck yeah. We like Emi Martinez. Modric went off. Lovro Mayer came on, replaced him. Modric looked absolutely devastated. Very rightfully received a standing ovation from the Croatia supporters and a clapped off by the Argentina fans. Again, hyper respectable and a respectful game, and you love to see that because Luka Modric is an absolute legend. Luka Modric is one of the best midfielders of his generation. I won't go as far as a lot of people. You see it online, man. Football fandom online. It's I can't believe I'm voluntarily. I am a sucker for punishment. I am a sucker for bathing in disgusting cesspools of absolute weirdos. Case in point, I thrust myself into the world of stand-up comedy in 2017, not knowing that it was potentially the most toxic industry you could imagine. A bunch of fucking, like, out-of-their-mind weirdos are the comedians, the performers, and then anybody who wants to be involved in this industry as a non-comedian is either a money-grubbing sadist or an even bigger psychopath than fucking the comedians themselves to want to be involved in this industry and not actually perform and get the, like, you know, that void-filling validation that we're all seeking. That was a little bit too personal. But anyway, I've done the same thing by investing in this, like, football kind of foray into the football, I guess, media space or whatever the fuck you call this, because football fandom online is so disgustingly toxic that, like, you cannot. It's the lesson in Mean Girls that has just not been learned by an entire generation. We need to show Mean Girls in classes because the lesson at the end is like, I can tear this person down as much as I want. It is not going to elevate me. That's the lesson at the end of Mean Girls, which is a really quite pertinent and poignant one that I've always carried with me. But football fandom online doesn't get that. I'm bringing this around about talk about Luka Modric because all I ever see is like the stat pad of Luka Modric again is like, Luka Modric has achieved more than Andres Iniesta and Xavi ever could on their best day. They know fucking nothing about it, blah, 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 blah. Like, you just can't compare. And why should you have to? It's like we have been blessed with a metabolism for football that has the ability to digest the most delicious delicacies on repeat over and over again, but with change and with dynamism and with difference throughout the years. And whether it's Andrea Pirlo, whether it's Andres Iniesta, whether it's Luka Modric, whether it's Casemiro, like, all of these guys are amazing midfielders that you can enjoy without tearing down a different one. So I don't know if Luka Modric is the best midfielder of his generation, but he is an absolutely astonishing one, a beautiful career, and we're lucky to have him. So shout out to Luka Modric. Very shameful. It's a shame that he goes out here, but, like, they were defeated by the better team. I did feel really bad for Croatia when the electronic board went up with 5 minutes of stoppage time. I'm like, just put them out of their misery. They're not coming back. They're not even going to get a consolation goal here. They should have just blown the whistle. They should have blown the whistle. Sean Connery says that they should have put the whistle to their mouth and they should have blown it. They should have blown the whistle at 90 minutes. Put them out of their misery. If I was one of those Croatia players and I saw 5 minutes at 90 minutes, I'd go, fuck you, Daniele Orsato, who happens to be one of the best referees in the world. Doesn't make it about himself at all. Plays to the rules. A true, proper, autistic, on the spectrum guy, as all the best referees need to be. By the book. Fuck yeah, Daniele Orsato. But just a little bit of discretion, man. Put them out of their misery. But no, 5 minutes of added time ended. The celebrations were wild from Argentina. Love to see the likes of Angel Di Maria embrace Luka Modric, and you know, that's one of the most beautiful things in football is gracious winners and sympathy for true champions that go down with a great fight. Nobody would have expected and should have expected Croatia to make it this far, and Argentina should thank their lucky stars that Croatia did make it this far, because I don't think they would have beaten Brazil. But that's a different conversation for a different day. And I saw in the crowd, it's like a what do you call the the window panes at the churches that have like all the Jesus murals, and everybody's like there's just the holy Jesus in the middle with the sun behind him and the halo and all of that. It was that in a flag, but with Diego Maradona, and it launched something into my mind that hasn't been there for the tournament. I've been distracted by Pelé being sick and the Brazilians doing it for him, and that whole thing. And I've failed to consider that this is the first World Cup that Argentina are going to since Diego Maradona's untimely and way too young death, and they're doing it for him, guys. They're doing it for him as much as more so probably than the Brazilians were doing it for Pelé. The spirit of Diego Armando Maradona has inhabited these Argentinian players. They're doing it for him. They're doing it for Messi. I saw this meme, and if this resonates with you, I mean, if you're watching this and you see what I've got here, you know that I could do a Dragon Ball Z podcast that would probably go longer than this. And I saw, I apologize if it doesn't resonate with anybody, but I saw this meme that was basically Lionel Messi doing the Gohan part of the father-son Kamehameha with a ghost Maradona behind him doing the Goku part, where it's like, we're in this together. The spirit of Maradona has embodied this Argentina team. They're doing it for him. They're doing it for Messi. The players love each other so much. See Paredes hugging fucking Di Maria, who they're best friends, but Paredes was hugging. Who was he hugging? He's hugging Molina, one of the players, and it's like they all love each other so much. They are fighting for it. They're fighting for the jersey. They're fighting for the country. They're fighting for Messi. They're fighting for Maradona. They're fighting for themselves. And it's evidenced by the fact that they lost to Saudi Arabia. And instead of turning around and finger pointing and sowing seeds of animosity within the camp, within the team, it galvanized them. It made them understand that it's gut check time and that we can actually do this if we play for the jersey. And that's what they've done. I don't think anybody that isn't French or Moroccan, look, cards on the table. I've already given my position away. I don't think Morocco are going to beat France. I think it's going to be a France-Argentina final, and that's going to make it a very big uphill battle for Argentina. But I don't think anybody that's not French would want to see anybody other than Argentina win this World Cup. So I hope they do. I really hope it isn't going to be that WrestleMania match where the Daniel Bryan underdog babyface that everybody's cheering for goes through all the trials and tribulations to get that World Heavyweight Championship match, and then he is defeated in the WrestleMania match by the big bad heel that nobody wants to see win, but that does it anyway just to get more heat on the heel. Apologize if all of that vernacular is lost on anybody not listening, but I think you understand what I'm saying. We don't want France to win if they do indeed make it past Morocco and take on Argentina in this final. Congratulations to Argentina. They've never lost a semi-final of a World Cup. They are now in their 6th World Cup final. If they win, they would have won half of the World Cup finals that they've been in. As it stands, they've been in 5. They've won 2, which is less than a 50% strike rate. So let's hope that they walk away with this one. Unless, of course, they play Morocco, in which case I don't really give a fuck who wins because it'll be a great story nonetheless. Morocco-France is tonight, and I can't wait. Watching one game of football in one sitting for the first time in almost a month was devastating. It feels like I've been given an entree and no main. Tonight we have the final semi-final match. And before I chat about it, I heard something really interesting on the Guardian Football Daily, which is the Guardian Football Weekly, but for the World Cup, which is the best football podcast in the world. And if you've got an hour every day, don't give it to me, give it to them. But regardless, I heard a really interesting thing that was sent in by one of the listeners from Morocco, in that it's not a bemoaning of the hype around how much Morocco's amazing tournament means for the Arab world. It's just a recontextualization of that fact, in as far as half of the population of Morocco are Berbers. They are the Amazirs, which are a very, very historical group of people who are very much not Arabs. Similar to Iran, a lot of people were saying that Iran, them doing well would have been great for the Arab world. Iran is in the Middle East, but only 3% of the Iranian population is Arab. The rest of them are, Persians and Kurds and I think Berbers too, a bunch of other stuff. So shout out to the Amasirs, who are over 50% of the population of Morocco. As much as anybody can take meaning from an underdog story like this, even with a peripheral tether to the story. For example, a lot of Italians are going from Morocco. Myself, somewhat included. Morocco is a tacit neighbor of Italy. A lot of Moroccan immigrants do move to Italy. There's gigantic historical racism towards Moroccans in Italy. But I think the younger generation of people are galvanized by their neighbors doing really well. Of course, it helps that Italy aren't in the fucking World Cup, but I digress. And so whether it's other Arabs, whether it's Amasirs and Berbers living in, for example, Algeria, because the Berbers are predominantly in North Africa. There's a few of them in Niger and a few of the kind of lower northern African nations, but mostly they are in countries like Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, etc. A lot of them are in Algeria. Algeria and Morocco historically hate each other. There's just big rivalry. They're neighbors, and they're just like culturally very similar, but they hate each other. But Algeria behind Morocco. And the Berbers in Algeria will be behind the Berbers. And also the key point that was made by the writer that wrote into The Guardian is that the majority of the diaspora and the migrant families that make up most of the Moroccan national team, you've got the likes of Ziyech and Mazraoui, who are, I think, born in the Netherlands, Bounou, who's born in Canada. Many of them are from Italy, France, etc., etc. The majority of the families that leave Morocco and settle elsewhere are Berbers. They're not Arabs. The Arabs actually stay. But I do know Hakimi's an Arab. And anyway, we're not making this an Arab versus Berber thing. I'm just saying this is an interesting little tidbit of information for cultural purposes about Morocco that you might not know. So there you go. Nonetheless, I fear that tomorrow morning's game will be a very similar scenario to today's game, in that it will be at some point, maybe towards the end of the first half, a foregone conclusion. Mostly because you have to assume that the way that this Morocco team has played in this World Cup has to run out of gas at some point. And indeed, the parts of the vehicle are steadily falling off. Aguerd and Mazraoui might play. We're not sure if they're going to play. Mazraoui, I think, he's got a hip flexor injury and suffered a bit of an illness. He was not risked against Portugal. I think he'll probably play. Aguerd, some people have said that he's sick. Some publications have noted that he has a muscle tear, which means that he's definitely out. We're not sure. He may feature. If they do feature, they're in with a better chance. Romain Saïss, stretch it off in the last game, injured in the previous game. He has been captain fantastic for them, and he has been one of the defenders of the tournament, an absolutely amazing presence at the back for them. He won't play. He can't play. It's not been confirmed whether he will or won't play, but he can't play. He can't play. But if he does play, give it to him. If he does play, write it down in your fucking notebook. If you see Romain Saïss lead his team out with that captain's armband to that return of Jafar, just evil, amazing Moroccan national anthem, when you see that shaved-haired son of a bitch lead his Moroccan team out there for the, for the sixth time in this tournament, when you see that man do that, send the French home. Au revoir to Les Bleus. Except you're going to be in the third, fourth playoff against Croatia if Romain Saïss plays. But he probably won't. And if Aguerd and Saïss and Mazraoui all don't play, call it, guys. They're not going to be able to contain France. France are too good. France are Thanos. France are inevitable. 3-0 again. I'm going to say 3-0 again. No. You know what? I'm going to say 3-1. Morocco aren't going to let France get out of this without giving them a little knock. So, I put up a little poll on my Instagram yesterday. I haven't checked the poll's results this morning. I haven't been on social media this morning at all, frankly, because I don't need to envelop myself in anxiety before doing these podcasts. I like to be a lot more loose, and social media is a fucking hellhole, so I don't want to go in there. So I don't know what the results of my poll are, but I do know that the least voted for in the Who You Got poll that I put up yesterday was Croatia, and they're gone. So I feel safe in knowing that the most of the people that follow me are clever, knowledgeable, insightful. I'm not going to judge all the people that clicked Croatia as the winners because, my dad said that, and a lot of people thought that, and this World Cup has been nigh on impossible to predict. So no one's an idiot for getting predictions wrong. Let's just make sure we're all on board with that. If you've been enjoying the pod, let me know. In the last few days, a lot of people have sent me a message to say I really enjoy it, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. YouTube comments from people in Perth, so nice. Please, if you've been enjoying it, let me know. Because I don't know. I'm just the guy doing this in my room every day of this World Cup, and we've only got 3 more games to cover, and one of them's a fucking dead rubber, but also super duper fun. Like the 3rd, 4th playoffs are always like the teams don't really have anything to lose, so except for like a bronze medal. So they play like weird teams and they smash each other really hard. But we'll preview that in the coming days. So 3 games to go, and I'm thoroughly disappointed. But I think I've been so revitalized in terms of how much I love football by doing this podcast that I think I may, even in the normal season, I may do 2 episodes a week of this podcast, one for patrons, but we'll see. Anyway, the point of that was, if you're liking this, let me know. Send me a message, because I would really appreciate it. And send me a message about other shit too. If I say something that's wrong, tell me I'm wrong. If I say something that you disagree with, you want to foster conversation with, don't send me giant essays of your opinion. Just chat with me. That's cool. And it may lead to me garnering information that I didn't otherwise have to then repurpose and tell to the world. Case in point, my old uni friend Dimitri Tomara, who has been listening to the first incarnation of this podcast and has been listening throughout this little period, Dimitri told me why it's called the A-Leagues. And the reason why it's called the A-Leagues and not the A-League, the reason why they've done the wog-mum pluralization of the A-League is because they changed the W League to the Women's A-League a little while ago, and to fix that appellation, they have now referred to the umbrella term of both the male and female A-Leagues as the A-Leagues together, which is dumb as fuck, but whatever. Like, we are living in a strangely progressive society, aren't we? And I'm not going to get into that now because I'm not the authority on that. I'm way more on authority on football than I am on that. And if you need more credentials, this here is the 2006 World Cup Italy jersey, which I have owned since that time. And I have watched and researched and been as passionate about football since before then. So listen to me, son. Okay, I'll tell you what's what. I'm just going to say it now as well. Four legs of my 2023 stand-up comedy tour are set. I am doing Adelaide in March. I am going to be in Melbourne for the entirety of April, and then in May, I'm going to be doing 5 shows in Sydney. This year I did 1 massive show in Sydney. In a 500-seater, which I sold very well because I'm the man. And this year there was a lot of people that couldn't make it on that specific date. So this year I'm doing a 150-seater, and I'm doing 5 days. So if you're free in the first week of May, Wednesday to Sunday, I'm doing the whole run. And I'm doing Perth the week after. I'm trying to add Brisbane and Newcastle. Stay tuned if you're in any of those cities. My show is called Heart of Darkness. It's about all of the worst things that I've done in my life and how I have morally atoned for that. Good fun. It's like confession, except the priest pays to hear it. And you don't have to pay to hear this podcast because it's free. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the game this morning. Vamos, Argentina. all the Argentinians are essentially. There's a lot of Italian influence in Argentina. Basically, all of the non-Martinez names in Martinez and Alvarez and Fernandez, the Spanish names, they're all Italians. Like Messi, Italian history, Romero, Molina, not Alexis McAllister. I, Alexis McAllister, be not from Italy. Fuck, man. Tagliafico is probably my cousin, man. Tagliafico is a super Sicilian surname. Tagliafico means thick cut. I'm almost certain. My dad will probably listen to this in an hour and correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I think it means thick cut in Sicilian, not just Italian. So a lot of Italian influence in Argentina. I wore this jersey specifically. I don't have an Argentina jersey, but I wore this specifically to show my love. So vamos Argentina, and they will be truly deserving winners of this World Cup. This is the Mr. Sitter podcast. I'm Anthony Locascio. Let your friends know to listen to this podcast and to raise their motherfucking daughters. Be cool and goodbye.